Coach Beverly, Josh Crawford, SI. My question is, with some of your teams lacking success in close games, what type of development do you want to see both on the field and off the field to turn that fortune around of late game losing, per se?
Well, I don't absolutely agree with what you said. If you go back and check my whole record, one of the reasons I'm here is because we do close close games, and that's the key to having a good season. Now, we were not good last year at it, and I will nod my head with you to that. But if you check the record, that's exactly what we do. You find a way to win close games, and that's the way you have outstanding seasons.
Steven? I wanted to ask about a couple of your quarterbacks.
A couple of them.
A couple of them.
Go slow with your two parts, because, okay.
I think this is the first time I talked to you since Justin got hurt in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
How's he doing, and what are the chances he plays this year? And then you brought in Carlos Del Wilson. What are kind of realistic expectations for him coming in?
Justin will not play this year. Okay. He's right now at the point where he's starting to jog, and he looks good. We want to make sure that his rehab is extremely thorough, like we do with all our players. So he could come back and be a shaky leg guy this year. That's not what we want. We've got high hopes for him, and we're going to bring him back in the spring and give him a full year of recovery, and that'll make him extremely strong going into the 2023 season. Okay. Carlos, we're still getting to know him. Okay, he didn't go through spring with us, right? Yeah. So all we've been able to do is hear talks and whispers about guys and what the stuff he's been doing in the summertime, and it'll be fun to see what he can do in the fall.
So how do you try and divvy up quarterback reps going into camp?
We're not divvying up anything. Schrader is getting the majority of the reps, and everybody else needs to fight and find a way to get them.
So you would put him on similar ground as Jacobian and Valari?
All those guys are battling for those reps to get the number 2 reps. And when you get the number 2 reps, then you have an opportunity to make a move, so to speak, or get yourself in position to play. But they have to battle for that stuff.
And the last thing on Carlos, how did it kind of come about, and what about him, makes you think he?
Well, he came available. I had a conversation with Dan Mullen. I go way back with him, and he had an opportunity when they were down in Florida. I went in for a job interview with there, and we kind of attached there. And Dan Mullen said some nice things about him, so we thought we'd take a chance. Okay.
Next up, Josh.
Coach, I wanted to ask about Michael Jones coming back. As defensive captain, just wondering if you can describe what it is that makes him such a good leader for the defense.
Okay, I didn't hear the last part. Your voice got really low on me.
Just wondering if you could describe what makes him such a good leader, for the defense.
Leadership is weird. What's the recipe for a leader? I don't know. I know how to make a cake. I got a cake recipe. I don't know what the recipe for a leader is, but it's one of those it things. The first time you met him, you went, huh, okay. But then you see him on the field, you see him interact with other people. I remember a situation, that happened on the field, and it had nothing to do with him. And it had a lot to do with someone else, with me. And I can still remember Mikhail grabbing the guy and putting his arm around him and saving that kid. And that kid's a good player and productive player for us today. Mikhail has that it. I can't tell you what it is. I don't know what it is, but he's got it.
Coach, Sean Tucker was the only member of your roster named preseason All-ACC team. Do you think that adds some extra motivation to some talented guys in your defense, such as Garrett Williams, Deuce Chestnut, and as we just talked about, Mikel Jones, to really get those accolades and play that much harder in the season?
Who votes on that stuff?
People that were at Media Day, so the 164 people that were at Media Day in Charlotte.
Media people. Yeah. Okay. I'm sure that the guys wish that they were some other people, names that shown up on that list, but I think the big thing is what you do on a football field. Like Steve Spurrier, I love this line. I bring it up all the time. He says, hey, the summer is, we go down there, he says it's talking season. I love that. I wish I'd have thought of that. Okay? Opening day is kind of like media season, so you guys you got your opinions and you guys write, and that's awesome because, heck, I read you guys. I read everything you guys write. Tell them, Steven, I read everything. Okay? So I enjoy those reads too, but they got to do it. They got to get out there and do it. And I think it's more important what happens at the end of the season, whether you end up on those teams, than whether your names show up in the beginning.
Back in front to Steven.
I will say, it's just media who attend, so it's kind kind of regionally disproportionate. Not a ton of Syracuse voters in the pool.
I wouldn't even know that. See.
From what it's worth.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about your expectations for the offensive line in camp. Do you have a 5 you're kind of starting with and then tweaking off of? Are you looking at multiple lineups?
You know, I think the two main parts of this season is the hippos and the elephants. And regardless of all the things that we've been able to do or the things we haven't been able to do, we haven't had a stable offensive line. And since you know when, I'm not going to bring it up. And it's frustrating for me. And it's God's will. I mean, it's not like somebody's doing something wrong. But if this is the season where it all works out and we can keep our top 7, the guys there, you know, let's go. I didn't say 5. If I could just play with 7.
Well, you did 6 in 2018.
Well, there you go. Okay, plus or minus 1. I'd be really happy with what was going to happen with the hippos. You know, with our D line, we're young, but those guys are crazy, and we got a lot of them, and you know, they're just full of energy. They're just like a young puppy instead of an old dog in a house, man. And they're going to do some wrong things, but they got so much energy that they're going to fall into some right things too. And with the veteran linebackers and the veteran and a lot of secondary guys behind them that we think are really good, we think we've upgraded there, it'll be interesting. But that'll be the key of the season. It always comes down to the O-line and the D-line.
So the O-line, do you kind of have a 5 you're looking at, or are you maybe looking at a couple of different lineups with
I'm trying to get to a top 7. Top 7 guys, and they can play wherever they can play.
Is there a group on the field that you could see with Leitch, Dakota, and Caleb? As in, could one of them play center or tackle?
Watch this. We have the flexibility to do that now. Yes, to answer your question.
Would that be Dakota going to tackle?
I'm not going to get into the details of that, but I think just putting your 5 best guys on the field gives you the best chance to win. Okay.
Anthony, then Alex.
Coach, can you talk a little bit about what you've seen so far from Francois Knowlton, just in the early stages there?
He's gotten better. You know, he's young, and he's got a lot of guys in front of him that kind of know the system better than him. But he's probably made some of the biggest gains on the defensive side of the ball. So it'll be interesting to see what he's going to do.
You have a little bit of a roadmap for how you might utilize him this year?
He hasn't played a snap yet, so he's got to go through August. He's got to go against our offensive line. He's got to do a lot of stuff. He's got a lot of mountain to climb before I can start talking about him in situations like this.
And then in the tight end room, what have you seen so far from that group, and what do you expect from them this year?
Well, first of all, you know, we've got Maximilian's coming back, Steve Mahar's coming back. We think that those guys know exactly what we're going to get, and then of course we've got Chris Elmore. You know, so that's a room. Those 2 guys have played a lot of football, and Steve Mahar is extremely talented. So if we get development out of him and those 3 guys settle down, we should be okay. Hopefully, I didn't miss anybody. I don't like to go names like that. Did I miss anybody?
I'm not sure.
Okay. All right.
Dino, day 1 tomorrow. I know you've been coaching for a while now, but what's the excitement level for you and for your players heading into tomorrow?
Okay, everyone asks me this question. I always answer the same way. This is like my 3rd, I don't know, not counting playing, this might be my 50th camp. Okay, so I've been to a bunch of camps. You know, I kind of know what camp is, so I don't know how much excitement I have. Now, where the excitement goes is looking to see how the guys have changed their bodies, looking to see where they're at, look to see how much they can grow in the next 30 days before the first game, and then how we can bring it together all as a team. That's exciting. To see where, to put the finishing touches on the throwing game, to see where this defense is going to end up. I mean, this defense was ranked in the top 25 last year, and I mean, it would be highly ranked if we had the defensive line coming back. But that's okay. Let's see where we can go with it. And then you know, I've said this before, I'll say it again. You guys, Sean Tucker's better. And I'm not trying to pump him up. I'm saying that modestly. He's better. And to his credit, he's stronger, he's faster, he's really learned the playbook to know what he's going to do, and it's going to be fun. That's why I said the key is the offensive line. If we keep our offensive line together, you know, we'll line up and play.
So it doesn't feel like Christmas morning to you at all when
You know how many Christmases I've had? I'll tell you what, it's fun to see the guys come. What's really cool is tonight, when all the guys come in, you get to see them and you have the first meeting in here in the middle of the night. It's all academics. You're not allowed to do any football, and everybody's buzzing, and you walk in and everybody gets quiet, and you realize that everything you did last year doesn't matter. And the only thing that matters is what you do from this moment forward. God bless.
Going back to the offensive line, Matthew Bergeron.
What's your first name?
Emily.
Okay. Sorry, Emily, I met you before.
Going back to the offensive line, Matthew Bergeron's a captain for you this season. How have you seen him step into a more prominent leadership role in the offseason?
He has taken command of that offensive line. First of all, he's mature beyond his years. The way he came onto the scene was amazing. He was a guy that replaced a guy that decided he didn't want to play anymore in the middle of the season, and he comes on and he plays the first game, and we're like, then he plays the second game. I can still remember it, and I'm like, wow, he made a huge improvement. By the third game, he was just as good as the other guy, and by the fourth game, it was over. And I wasn't happy with some coaches. I'm like, if that guy was that good, how come we didn't know it? But he has been amazing. He has been a fabulous leader, and he's really made some of the young guys grow up. And I wish nothing but really good things for him. He's going to have an opportunity, no doubt in my mind, to go to the league. And if he can go this year, that's fantastic for him because that's good for us. And if he wants to stay one more year, I think I can find a scholarship for him.
Time for a couple more. We'll start with Samantha.
What do you expect from your leaders?
I couldn't hear the last part you said.
What do you expect from your leaders?
I expect them to take control. The best football teams are players-led teams. As much as coaches want to get up and say this and say that, and don't worry, we got our fingers on it. But when you raise a family, you got your mom, you got your dad, but whoever the oldest is in the family, unless you're single born, unless whoever the oldest in the family is teaching all the other brothers and sisters what's right, what's wrong, what they can get away with, what in the heck they're going to get in trouble for, there is absolutely no doubt. And that's what leaders have to do in here. I mean, the guys that know what's going on has got to grab the younger guys underneath their wings and make sure they don't make simple mistakes, okay? And that's the atmosphere of a really good culture.
Last two before we get to the players. Stephen, and then one right here.
So you brought in a lot of impact transfers, or guys who you think can help you. You talked about the secondary, you got 2 wide receivers, running back. You didn't get any defensive linemen. How did we kind of get here to the point where you didn't add to that group, and why?
Went after them. The key thing was we think the young guys are really talented, and we went after guys that we thought were better. And we lost some battles, some Big Ten battles against some cats. And but we just didn't want to bring in someone that was just like the guys we had, because it's going to slow down the development of the young guys. So unless we could clearly say that guy's better and he's going to be a starter on the D-line, which was the criteria that we went after, and we couldn't seal the deal on some of those kids, we're okay to go with the young guys and let it happen that way. Okay?
So the thought is you'd rather have your backups be young guys who are developing over the course of the season than maybe an older guy who's coming in and you don't get to experience some of that.
When they say older, they got to be better. They can be older, but it doesn't mean they're better. The young guys are talented.
And physically capable to that point. I mean, I think that's the question, right? You put a true freshman out there, size, strength, versus an older guy who maybe doesn't have the ceiling, but can maybe hold up against the run a little bit.
What we do with the run,
Fair enough, right?
we need to be fast. We need to move. We need to stick and move, and the young guys can do that. Unless we've got a grandpa, granddaddy coming in there that knows what in the heck's going on. And we went after 2 or 3 of those. There's not a lot of them, sure, because they enter the portal and they leave very quickly if they're that talented. We got some on campus, but we couldn't get it done.
Last question for Coach.
Josh Crawford inside. Don't beat me up on my earlier question either, Coach.
Don't beat you up on the question.
I'm saying it's my first day. I ain't trying to build a bad relationship. We're gonna be seeing each other a lot.
I'm a coach, not a fighter.
Seems like they all in the seconds. But no, obviously you talked about Shawnee. Obviously about Garrett Schrader. You talked about your offensive line. Your running game was probably one of the most dynamic in the country last year. But where do you expect or trying to develop explosive playmakers outside of those two?
Outside of Schrader
And Sean.
and Sean?
Yes, sir.
If Schrader and Sean makes all the explosive plays next year, this year, and we win, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. I don't think you need to necessarily say you got to go out and find all these other guys. Now, it's open, and we're looking for people that want to put their name on the dance card. But those guys are explosive. When you have a quarterback that can make plays and you have an All-American tailback, you better make sure that those two guys touch the ball a lot. And then whoever wants to be next, okay, they need to do their part. So it's okay. We'll find some guys, but those two guys are already a lot. Okay?
All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.